Have you ever wondered what could kill a man who never lost a single battle, who conquered an empire stretching from Greece to India before he'd even seen his 33rd birthday? In the summer of 323 BCE, Alexander the Great lay dying in the grand palace of Babylon, fever burning through his veins like the desert sun. His generals stood by, powerless, as the conqueror who had ridden lightning across continents was felled by something invisible. Was it a sudden bout of malaria, a slow-acting poison slipped into his wine, or the crushing weight of exhaustion from a life lived at breakneck speed? And could whispers of betrayal, divine wrath, or a medical mystery hidden in ancient texts provide the answer? Stay with us as we peel back the layers of legend and science to uncover the truth behind history's greatest enigma. Alexander's meteoric rise began in the rugged hills of Macedonia, where he tamed the untamable horse Bucephalus at age 12, an act that would become the first inkling of a warrior destined for glory. By 20, he had inherited a kingdom forged by his father, Philip II, and swiftly crushed rebellions in Greece, sending a message that defiance meant annihilation. But data from ancient inscriptions show that fewer than 10,000 troops remained loyal enough to follow him into Asia. How did such a slender force topple the vast Persian Empire? The answer lies in a blend of audacious tactics, like the daring river crossing at Granicus, and psychological warfare that shattered enemy morale. Yet each victory etched another line of fatigue into Alexander's body, a debt that would demand payment far sooner than anyone expected. When Alexander crossed from Europe into Asia with 40,000 men, he carried not only swords, but also a vision of cultural fusion. At Issus, his flanking maneuver outwitted Darius's 100,000-strong army. At Tyre, he built a 200-meter causeway to breach island defenses. At Gaugamela, he unleashed a hammer and anvil attack that forever sealed Persia's fate. These feats demonstrate that Alexander's genius wasn't just personal daring, it was strategic calculation, supported by engineers, scouts, and a chain of supply lines extending over 2,500 kilometers. Even so, the triumphs came at a cost. Nearly 1 in 4 soldiers perished in battle or from wounds sustained, and every step eastward strained the limits of logistics, pushing both horse and man to the brink. In Egypt, Alexander was hailed as the son of Amun, visiting the oracle of Siwa to confirm his divine status. There he founded Alexandria, a city designed to be a hub of Hellenistic learning, complete with a library rumored to hold 400,000 scrolls. Yet within 2 years, his soldiers had marched another 3,000 kilometers into Babylon and across the Zagros Mountains into Bactria and Sogdiana, facing guerrilla uprisings that revealed the empire's fragility. Local warlords employed hit-and-run tactics among mountain passes where cavalry was useless. To maintain control, Alexander adopted local customs, married 2 Persian princesses, and encouraged his officers to do the same, an experiment in unity that outraged his Macedonian veterans and sowed seeds of dissent in his own ranks. By the time Alexander reached the Indus River in 326 BCE, his army had dwindled to half its original size, and his men demanded return. Yet he pressed on, engaging King Porus in one of antiquity's most spectacular battles. Using feigned retreats and surprise flanking attacks, he overcame war elephants and an opponent tenacious in defense. Impressed by Porus's courage, Alexander reinstated him as a satrap, a decision that exemplifies his blend of ruthlessness and pragmatism. But behind the triumph lay exhaustion. 11 days in the Gedrosian desert would later claim more lives than any battle. Measures of heat stroke risk and water scarcity for desert caravans even today highlight how deadly that retreat was for his men and horses. Back in Babylon, Alexander's ambitions reached new heights. Plans for an Arabian campaign, naval expeditions to the Red Sea, and the construction of a canal connecting the Nile to the Red Sea. He summoned architects, scholars, and geographers to map the world. But on the night of May 30th, after a grand banquet celebrating his recent victories, he fell gravely ill. Ancient accounts describe a fever that struck his limbs with paralysis, leaving him voiceless and immobile for 11 agonizing days. Modern analysis of these symptoms suggests possibilities ranging from West Nile virus to Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare neurological disorder that emerged in medical literature only in 1859. Could such a condition strike undetected in an age without microscopes or fever thermometers? Suspicion of foul play surfaced almost immediately. Antipater, left in charge of Macedonia, had motive to prevent Alexander from naming a new heir. The historian Justin claims Alexander's signet ring, entrusted to Perdiccas, was snatched by Ptolemy en route to Egypt, an act that birthed decades of Diadochi wars. Arsenic poisoning leaves traces in hair and nails. But without Alexander's tomb for forensic analysis, we can only speculate. Some suggest hellebore, a local plant used medicinally but toxic in large doses. Others point to wine mixed with tainted water. Each theory has its advocates, yet none offers definitive proof, inviting you to decide what sounds most convincing. Stories of divine intervention swirl around his death. Plutarch records that Alexander believed great men deserved early exits, and that he uttered no cry when struck by disease. The absence of his body's decay for days after death led followers to hail him as immortal. But natural embalming from hot desert air or salt-encrusted sarcophagus could account for this phenomenon. Even in modern times, bodies buried in arid climates can remain remarkably preserved. Was this preservation seen as a miracle, or simply a quirk of local conditions? His passing sent shockwaves through the ancient world. Within weeks, his generals divided the empire into factions: Antigonus in Anatolia, Ptolemy in Egypt, Seleucus in Babylon, sparking conflicts that would last for centuries. Alexander's dream of a unified realm based on mutual respect of cultures dissolved into civil war. Yet his cultural legacy persisted. Greek language and art mingled with Persian, Egyptian, and Indian traditions, giving rise to Greco-Bactrian kingdoms and the spread of Buddhist thought along the Silk Road. This fusion is evident in surviving coins bearing Greek inscriptions and images of Indian deities, testifying to his enduring impact. 2,300 years later, Alexander's death remains a puzzle that binds us to the past. His life and demise appear in over 50 ancient histories and hundreds of modern studies. Military academies dissect his tactics, philosophers debate his motivations, adventurers still search for his tomb, guided by clues in Ptolemy's own account. Each generation rediscovers him as hero, tyrant, or visionary, reflecting our own hopes and fears. What Alexander achieved in 3 decades reshaped the world forever, but the cause of his end remains just out of reach. So, what do you believe? Was it nature's wrath, a conspirator's blade, or a simple tragedy of overreaching ambition that claimed Alexander the Great? Drop your theories in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey through history's greatest mystery, hit like and subscribe for more explorations of the past's unsolved secrets.